sports professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the show that goes beyond the trillion-dollar business of sports, marketing, legal, business, deal-making. If it's not X's and O's, it is covered completely with this show. NASCAR ends. Congratulations to Truex. Golf has been ended for a couple of weeks, though there still are tournaments, obviously, in this next cycle. Baseball winter meetings coming up. We'll talk a lot about baseball today. Basketball, hockey, continuing. Football in its near Thanksgiving break, thankfully for some teams and not thankfully for others with momentum. College football, BCS, no longer, but the playoff system, huge, attracting incredible interest. The bottom line is we have an action-packed show today for a lot of different reasons. We'll tease it, but after some of our issues, and by the way, if you want to hear us and see us, CSN Mid-Atlantic and Google Play, Audio Boom, subscribe to our Apple Podcast, Stitcher, all the feeds that you normally see. But today, baseball's grand ambassador, Cal Ripken, he talks about life, consecutive streak, what it means to be a successful businessman, and appropriate for Thanksgiving and the Christmas holidays, the Ripken Foundation, which is maybe his loftiest accomplishment. But first, let's talk about some of the big issues in sports this week in the NFL. Cowboys prepare for their third annual Thanksgiving game, quarterback their annual Thanksgiving game. It's not their third, it's numbers of them. Dak Prescott helped kick off a partnership with Tostitos to raise money for the Salvation Army during the holiday season. Tostitos makes a donation for every bag of its new yellow corn bite-sized tortilla chips purchased now through the end of the year, up to $500,000 supporting the Salvation Army. And Jerry Jones's daughter, Charlotte Jones Anderson, who's very involved in the Salvation Army on a national basis. While the news might cause some NFL execs to throw up their hands and say, oh dear, by the way, the opening of Wisconsin's deer hunting season, the Packers' on-field struggles are dealing with ticket prices for the games at Lambeau Field. We talk about the Cowboys, but how about lowering the prices? $115, the highest for the next four Packers games. The news is enough for NFL executives, and in general, this portends good momentum for the NFL as the holiday season gets underway. Packers struggling on the field, off the field, you wouldn't know it. The ticket price is higher than ever at the beginning of deer hunting season. How about another animal? The Jacksonville Jaguars and receiver Aurelius Ben teamed up with leading educational technology company EverFi to launch the Phone Home Financial Scholars Program. Ben got a late start in his career after coming out of college due to early injuries, preventing him from launching his own foundation at the onset of his career. But he's now the captain of the Jags Special Team Unit, and he launched his Phone Home public-facing brand to bring financial literacy education to 10 schools, 5 high schools, and 5 middle schools in his hometown of Washington. Ben's motto is phone home. When he is not playing well or when life hits him hard, he phones home to bring himself back to his roots. Ben will wear special customized foam home cleats during Week 13 of the NFL season. And that week, players are allowed to wear cleats designed to support their own personal causes. We have to see that, and the take is obvious. Another strong addition to holiday and year-round initiatives from both the NFL and EverFi. Kudos and positive reinforcement for all involved, the NFL and obviously others. The battle between Dallas Cowboys owner, back to Dallas again, but maybe not so charitable, Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell, continues to escalate the feud. The league accused Jones of trying to sabotage its contract negotiations with Goodell. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. And the conflict between the two began after Jones called for more transparency in regard to Goodell's contract extension and salary arrangement. Jones called for the commissioner's new salary to have more incentive and performance bonuses tied in as opposed to a high guarantee. Goodell reportedly seeking a little less than $50 million in annual salary as part of the new deal and been paid over $200 million during his tenure as commissioner. The league has since called Jones's conduct detrimental to the league's best interests, at least some would say so, and tension has grown so severe that the topic of removing Jones has been discussed by at least some of the owners. But my take is, according to multiple sources, Goodell's proposed contract extension is on track to get done, despite some of these recent controversies, and many expect it to be completed on or before the December 13 NFL owners meeting. Where? In Dallas. We'll have to see. Well, it's not just that, but falling TV ratings continue to worry the NFL and league officials. Bloomberg has a report that falling ratings are a major concern for Goodell, prompting daily talks around the league office as to how they can fix this increasingly negative trend. The NFL currently stuck in a similar position as other pro sports leagues in the U.S., struggling to attract, engage new and younger viewers. The whole decouching, get them to watch TV and also to go to the stadium. The drop in ratings for NFL games may seem troubling for the league and its advertisers, but increased streaming and non-traditional consumption of digital content is consistent with the viewership drop of television broadly, and people need to understand that. The NFL historically been able to quickly fix any negative trends, though the movement away from traditional TV is more than a trend, it's a generational movement. And the obvious take is that broadcasting games on platforms that millennials use is a necessary process for any sports entity that wants to remain competitive in the current digital landscape. And not to be outdone, the NFL is looking at obviously other corporate relationships. AT&T bringing a SG evolution to Minneapolis for Super Bowl 52. The launch will provide customers in the area with greater connectivity on their devices along with upgraded network capabilities. Along with greater network capabilities surrounding Minneapolis generally, U.S. Bank Stadium will receive its own upgrades via a distributed antenna system. LTE capacity, we all know that, that's on our phone. The stadium network alone provides coverage over 150% of where it was last year in the same area. Not only will 5G be deployed in Minneapolis, but the company also plans to roll out network for 19 other cities by year's end. Some said 5G is really the way it works, and AT&T is working with numerous global technology partners to ensure a smooth launch. They've been working tirelessly in recent years to ensure better connectivity within stadiums. And last year, for example, at multiple venues, AT&T sent in drones to identify heavily saturated wireless areas during events. It'd be great, by the way, if drones could be the free safety instead of all these guys getting hurt, but I really do digress. Let's finish the NFL by talking about the players. The NFLPA's business arm, NFL Players, Inc., launched REP, representing every player worldwide, a player marketing and licensing group that'll take on the WNBPA and the union for the USWNT as its first clients and partners. We have a number of leagues and players looking at this. The RFP will work to create and manage sustainable group licensing and player marketing programs. NFL Players, Inc. President Ahmad Nasser serves as REP chairman, and the VP of Licensing and Business Development, Steve Schlibo, will be involved day to day. The new venture will also be overseen by an athlete advisory board and an executive board, each comprising reps from its founding partners. And the services include sponsorships, licensing, consulting on activation strategy, and other items. In fact, the Players Tribune was a game changer in terms of giving pro athletes a direct voice. Now, leagues and the PA are playing catch-up. Well, that's football for the day. We will return to some of the big issues as far as the power of sports after we hear from Cal Ripken as he talks about a lot of these issues as well. And we'll get to that. But let's talk global and what's happening across the pond. With the field officially set for the 2018 World Cup in Russia this summer, Adidas emerged in the early lead for the shirt sponsorship battle versus Nike. Adidas 11 of the 32, Nike 10, and despite outfitting 10 countries, the failure of the U.S., Chile, and Netherlands to qualify comes as a big loss in potential sales and exposure for the Oregon-based Nike company. The sponsorship stakes are high, both of these companies spending $5 billion of soccer gear, selling it and obviously getting the revenues. Nike represented 12 teams back in Rio, and Adidas had 10. Puma generated an unexpected challenge for the two heavyweights in 2014 with 8. But this coming World Cup is set to mark a major disappointment for Puma, though since Italy failed to qualify for the World Cup, and now only Switzerland and Uruguay, The wild card here, though, is that discussions have begun about convening an NIT-like alternative tournament for heavyweights who failed to make the World Cup main draw. Nike, Adidas, Puma, certainly poised to benefit. Look at some of the international issues, though, as far as technology across the pond. Global sports e-commerce retailer Fanatics wants to take on the UK and China markets in an attempt to reach the $10 billion annual sales mark over the next 5 years. They're based in Jacksonville, and they have exclusive licensing deals with everything from NASCAR to the NFL, plus English Premier League and soccer teams like Man U and Man City. Pairs these with a fast fashion-inspired logistical operation that lets sell shirts and caps celebrating on-field achievements minutes after the action ends. Now, armed with $1 billion investment from SoftBank Group, fellow billionaire Michael Rubin aims to tackle a tougher challenge, sparking an American-style hunger for sports team gear in fans with UK and China. Rubin, also co-owner of the Sixers and the Devils. Rubin made magic with Fanatics North America, and really you wouldn't bet against him in the global runway. How about Sports Illustrated? Subscription-based service on Amazon channels is launching Sports Illustrated TV. Time Inc. is launching Sports Illustrated TV, a subscription-based over-the-top streaming service. $4.99, 130 hours of movies, original documentaries. The first 5 Rocky movies, you can't get that everywhere. Bad News Bears, North Dallas 40. The streaming service will not air live sports, nor will it broadcast any sports news or highlights and variety reports. The service will have various talk programs in addition. Sports Illustrated TV will show original sports documentaries as well as various docu-series. Mike Tollin of Mandalay Sports Media and director and producer of several 30-for-30s, and Jonathan Hock have signed deals to produce sports documentaries for Sports Illustrated TV. And the interesting take is, rather than spending money on live sports or highlights rights, Sports Illustrated TV spending time on storytelling, a critical component to reach millennials. And then the Olympics, Dow Chemical helping develop Team USA for the luge in Korea, partner of the Olympic Games and Team USA. Dow engineers and scientists helping the USA luge team tune its sleds to get an edge over the competition. Using a web of sensors, GPS, physics models, and lab testing, Dow is helping to improve the team's speed and agility while helping racers understand the South Korean race conditions so they can make last-minute decisions and adjustments with their sled. While the company wouldn't provide specifics, hesitant to give away Team USA's secret sauce ahead of the 18 games, everybody involved with the luge program says it's huge. Also a sponsor of RCR scientists in Dow's Material Engineering Center, they've worked hand-in-hand with scientists from RCR USA Luge for several years on an ongoing basis, using similar formulas and scientific methods to solve problems for both teams. And finally, Visa, as far as in the Korean Olympic Games, their payment connected with Winter Olympics and 2 other wearables will enable cashless payments at the upcoming Olympic Games. The company unveiled its plans to offer Olympic attendees smart gloves that contain dual interface chips with antennas that will enable contactless payments throughout the venue. Visa's installed more than 1,000 of these and will also offer 4 different commemorative Olympic lapel pins that enable participants in an array of thin, flexible, adhesive micro tags that are embedded with NFC chips and antennas that can be attached to a variety of items, such as clothes and bags. The bottom line is payment gloves provide a hassle-free way to pay. The additions follow the introduction of the Visa payment ring at the Summer Olympics in Rio, the first time Visa debuted cashless payment operations at games. And again, convenience a must-have for today's sports fans, especially in such a sophisticated, tech-savvy market as South Korea. A lot going on internationally. Let's deal with hockey on one big issue, because it's also basketball. The NHL had preliminary talks at its offices in New York with Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta about the viability of bringing an expansion team to Houston. The NHL refuted any claims that it's actively looking for relocation options, but rather in the very early stages of evaluating a potential opportunity. If Houston were to express some interest in having an NHL franchise in the right circumstances, is something we might consider, said Gary Bettman. As I've mentioned before, I'm very interested in the possibility of bringing the NHL to Houston, but it would have to be a deal that works for my organization, the city, the fans, and the NHL throughout the region, as well as the Board of Governors, tweeted Mr. Fertitta. Southern expansion has, for the most part, been kind to the NHL, but it has been successful in snowbird states populated by hockey-happy, cold-climate expatriates, and while Houston doesn't fit that mold, it is a great sports town. Obviously, stay tuned. Well, let's talk baseball as we get closer to Cal Ripken. Couple facilities first. The A's pushed to finalize plans for their new ballpark, and Rob Manfred, the commissioner, said the site next to Laney College has some really appealing aspects. Some concerns remained with the site due to the impact on surrounding residents, but despite that, Manfred remains positive on the team's choice of location. One of the things that we've learned about including ballparks, particularly in urban areas, is they have a way, miraculously or otherwise, he says, of improving the overall development around them. And the A's can get this done. Hopefully, it would also be another example of that. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf is personally in favor of the Howard Terminal site near the Bay waterfront as opposed to the one near Laney College. But the take is that regardless of where the new ballpark ends up, it'll be in Oakland as opposed to Fremont or San Jose, other local sites that have been looked at over the years. Scene shifts to the other stadium concern around baseball. The Rays might only end up paying $150 million of the $800 million cost of the new stadium around Ybor City. The $150 million number comes from the team's initial projection based on how much their revenues would increase, though it could end up being higher or lower than that. If the franchise wants to make the new stadium a reality, it would need to see support from the community in terms of commitments for season tickets and sponsorships, with a goal toward increasing both by 50%. Negotiations as to who covers it and what's expected to happen might take at least a year. It's going to take a lot of oars in the best boat to pull this forward, but I know we're committed, says owner Stuart Sternberg. Nobody wants this done sooner or better than we do, than I do, he says. And the take is that Sternberg has proved a good steward for the franchise so far and the market. And if anybody can get it done, he probably can. Final baseball issue, we go to New York. The Yankees looking to get under, believe it or not, the MLB luxury tax for the first time since 2003 and the beginning of the tax. Headed into the offseason, the Yankees only had about $160 million in player payroll obligations, a number well below the $197 million luxury tax line. The completion of the number of big contracts has helped the team stay under that line so far, paying off CC Sabathia, A-Rod, and others. Speaking of staying under the tax threshold, Yankees managing general partner Hal Steinbrenner said, I believe it's very attainable. It's going to give us more flexibility in the immediate years to come to the table if we decided to go over it again. And I've been saying you can have a world championship caliber team and not have a $200 million payroll. And my take is that if the Yankees do in fact stay below the line, it'll reset the penalty from a 50% tax as a repeat offender to 20%. The fact the kids are young and Judge and all of the guys, Bird and the like, certainly helps the Yankees. Well, we got to stay on baseball because it's Thanksgiving week and it's charity and philanthropy and basically the power of sport. Our interviewee retired after 21 seasons with the Orioles, 2001 and 2007. He had the third highest vote of any Hall of Famer elected. Obviously, not sure why he didn't get number one. We talked about that before. His dad, Cal Sr., was a 37-year veteran of baseball before he was taken from us, in Cal's words, in 1999. One of the first people I saw growing up in Miami watching baseball, and Cal Ripken Sr. left a profound impact on me. Cal Ripken Jr. working with us in the Fields and Futures program in Oklahoma, and he is definitely significant in my life. His badges for baseball and other major issues continue to make him a legend. And clearly, 1995 was something that nobody else has done or will do after he beats the 21-30 number of Lou Gehrig's consecutive game streak. But I will tell you this, that is not what Cal Ripken is all about. It is the foundation, it is the fields, it is the Badges for Baseball program, and it is all of the things that he wants to do to give back to the community. You should hear about this. You will. Cal Ripken Jr.
Yeah, it's Miami Stadium, but that's a market. This is home plate of the Miami Stadium, which was the baseball hub of South Florida for over 5 decades. This ballpark and the city of Miami was important to the Ripken family. Cal Sr. managed the minor league Miami Marlins in 1967. And 10 years later, his son Cal Jr. was with the Miami Orioles and was moved to third base because his manager felt it was a good fit. The Ripken connection to this area continues today, both here and across the United States. We recently caught up with Cal Ripken Jr. to talk about his foundation's work and where he hopes it's headed in the future. Hall of Famer Cal Ripken, Ripken Baseball, Ripken Foundation. But today we're going to focus on the second and third more than anything else. A little bit of an elevator speech about the Ripken Baseball piece, the foundation, how they all come together.
I'm not very good in an elevator.
All right. Well, pretend this one takes a little while to get to the top.
I gotcha. We got the idea to start the foundation in my dad's name, so it's Cal Ripken Senior Foundation. Dad's life was all about helping kids. He did it through his help in the minor leagues, trying to get kids to the big leagues, acted as a father for many of the kids that came from diverse backgrounds, but he used to use baseball to help kids in the communities that he was in. And I thought that was his magic. So Billy and I started the foundation to help kids that didn't have all the same advantages, and we'd use baseball to do that. And we've had some success. We thought that we would help a handful of kids, and that would be meaningful enough. But the important thing is we're helping kids.
Your dad's managing career was very important in Miami, and won 2 Fields All-Star game this year in Miami in conjunction with the commissioner of Major League Baseball. So you had a chance to kind of come back.
Well, I mean, anytime that we were in, it was a minor league city at the time, we were playing minor league baseball, you always had a real reach into the community. Minor league baseball, by its nature, is kind of a community gathering place. And so we had a grip into there, and we all felt that the community grabbed us while we were there. So it's always fun to go back. And in this case, many, many, many years later, Major League Baseball, at the site of the All-Star Games, are trying to energize the local youth game and get ballparks finished. And that fits in right exactly what we're doing. But all the players that came back, it provided a really nice backdrop, and the field turned out really great. But I always say the best part about any field that you do, you know, the ribbon cutting ceremony, we'll all stick our chest out and they'll look the best it's ever going to look. But the beauty of the field is when you sneak back and you see kids actually playing on it and enjoying the field.
Well, and the bottom line is the field, as we know, are so much more important than fields themselves. Your mandate is a field is the kind of physical manifestation, but it's education, it's training, it's teamwork, increased graduation rates, self-worth. There's a whole lot of value that comes out of that, doesn't it?
We would call it an outdoor classroom, you know, if we're sitting there talking. In our elevator speech, maybe I'll add that into our speech.
We're not anywhere near the top, so we've got a way to go.
So the outdoor classroom, it's a place, a safe place, in some areas that aren't so safe. A safe place for kids to develop and grow. And there's a curriculum, there's a way of thinking, there's a mentorship building that takes place on those fields. But you push kids away really quickly when you say it's a classroom. It's a baseball field, it's for fun. But the interest here is we're not looking for big league players, we're looking for big league people. And we're trying to use baseball to help those people. If you appeal to a kid, and the way to appeal to a kid, in my opinion, is through things that they like to do, that they're interested in. Sports is that vehicle for many kids. And baseball is an interesting sport. You don't have to be the biggest, strongest, and fastest. There's certain skills that you can apply. Many times we see out here that kids of the smallest size have the most success swinging a bat. They have an instinct, a hand-eye coordination, and some power. And the bigger kids haven't figured that out yet. And so it's really gratifying to see how sometimes roles can change. But baseball is a beautiful sport. It's for all types of kids, all shapes and all sizes. And we think it fits really well trying to get them moving in the right direction.
You come back to a place like this, you look back years after it opens. What gives you the most satisfaction?
Sneaking back. Coming down the car.
You can't sneak any.
Oh yeah, you can sneak.
You can sneak.
You can sneak.
Okay.
Unannounced, you just kind of come in. You're coming into Baltimore, and you say, "I wonder what's happening over there in that field." And you'll kind of cruise over and look at it. When you see what's going on out there, that's the real stuff that happens when you're not there, and that's the stuff that makes you feel good. So to me, that's the beauty of a place like this. Come back. First of all, you want to come back and make sure it's it still looks good and it still feel fine. But for me personally, it's the activity on the field that you witness. Here's why I do it. When I was a kid, I remember how important every word that a big league baseball player said. I remember reading a Sports Illustrated article that had Willie Stargell said, you make it to the big leagues on talent, you stay because you're smart. And then I literally thought that being smart, meaning doing well in school, would help my chances to be a big league baseball player. And so it made me focus and concentrate on my schoolwork. And so you never know what impact you're going to have on a kid, but I know that it's there. And to me, I just wanted to make sure that any impact that I had would have been positive.
What does Cal Ripken do 5 years from now? Where are you?
Probably opening field number 150. I don't know. I mean, I just turned 57, so you're at a stage in your life where you're looking at slowing down a bit.
You're not slowing down.
But this gives you a lot of, and maybe you look back on as maybe you're not looked at as a baseball player, and maybe you stand for something else. And so the second part of your life is about helping kids, and I'd be happy to be remembered that way.
Cal Ripken, it is an honor. Thank you very much for debuting a show with us, and look forward to working with you.
My pleasure.
Well, this is the holiday season. Let me just give you a number of other perspectives. We'd like to thank Cal, obviously, but the power of sport goes beyond just fields. For example, the University of Kentucky quarterback is inspiring people stricken with Tourette's. His name is Steven Johnson. He's a natural athlete, and he's always struggled to fit in due to his fidgeting, stuttering, and the like. And almost 10 years after his initial diagnosis, he's leading the Wildcats on the field and have them headed to a postseason bowl game. Wins in their final games, Kentucky could win 99 games for the first time in 30 years. He's never forgotten what he had to go through to get to where he is today, and he's using his success on the field to inspire others. He's become a popular public speaker in the Lexington area, addressed more than 24 local church and youth groups, sharing the story and inspiring others who feel as isolated as he did during his childhood. And just to tell you that it's also across the pond, creative primary school student in London organized a charity football tournament. Fred Young, a pupil at St. Stephen's Primary School in London, primary school, he organized a charity football and netball tournament to help raise funds for the victims of the Grenfell Tower fire disaster. The kid's just 10, and Young was inspired to spring into action after watching a charity football match that raised nearly £30,000 for those affected. And thus far, a total of 34 teams from different schools have signed up for the event, raising more than £2,300 for the Grenfell victims. All of the money raised donated to the British Red Cross London Fire Relief Fund. There are other issues as well. The IOC launching a program to protect athletes from harassment, taken an important step to help protect young athletes and mistreatment, harassment, and other things. This week, the IOC presented a toolkit at the Association of National Olympic Committee General Assembly that they believe will help provide solutions and guidance for sporting organizations around the world. The IOC's goal is to help organizations implement policies and procedures that will have a long-lasting positive impact on the well-being of the country's athletes. At the upcoming Olympic Games in South Korea, the IOC will have a clear structure in place to report any harassment or abuse of athletes, and a committee officer will be on site at the Olympic Village for the duration of the Games and will report all incidents dealing with the confidential procedure in conjunction with local law enforcement. Bottom line is, as we enter this Thanksgiving time, sports really important for the business it generates, but also for the good it generates. We need to aspire to be great, not just good. That's our show, ladies and gentlemen. Look at CSN Mid-Atlantic for all of the topics, the 15 to watch, the 5 tech, and the 5 power of sports. We'd like to thank Cal Ripken. We'd like to thank Steve Salem, the head of the Ripken Foundation, for doing such an incredible job, John Maroon for helping us set up the interviews, and Dan Martin from Comcast, from CSN Washington, and Tanner Simpkins from my staff from helping put this together. And to all of you, have a happy Thanksgiving, and join us next week when we go Beyond the Scoreboard.